Looking back, I can say that yes, I was drinking a poison that was lowering my inhibitions, and I know exactly why I was feeling euphoric in those moments, but I didn't know that at that time. My poor dad, as I learned when I was about 16, suffered from quick onset of what the doctors called schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and Hodgkin's disease. It was like this terrible cocktail of mental disorder. He just didn't want to see anybody. I don't know how you can raise someone without being very vigilant and trying to keep them away from all of the bad things in life. I'm on this podcast. Life happened. I found my way into the different corners of the world that didn't reward me. 6 weeks later, I had sent out 50 free quick kits to people who needed them, and the results were overwhelmingly positive. And then since then, I've been doing Quick Kit full time. I've totally dedicated my life to this thing.
This is the Don't Hide the Scars podcast, presented by Pain, Parents and Addicts in Need.
Matt Von Boecklin, thank you for joining me on Pain's Don't Hide the Scars.
You are very welcome. I am so pleased to be here.
Oh, hey, it's always wonderful to connect with other people that have really turned their lives around from substance use, abuse, addiction, and then are helping other people. And I'm excited to talk to you about what the work you're doing with Quick Kit, how it came about. But I do want to know the whole story, give people the picture of why you care and why you're the right person to be doing what you're doing. And for me, it's always, the curiosity is always childhood, what it was like, who you were as a little kid, home environment, and so on.
I know that mine is not going to be the same as some of the other guests on the show. Mine was fairly unremarkable, at least from my perspective. But, I grew up with my mom and no brothers and sisters. And when I was growing up, little kid getting into grade school, I would go over to my friend's house and the dad would be there. They'd have brothers or sisters. Things would be normal like that. It was like they have their version of a family. I have mine, myself, my mom, modest house. And, when I was a kid, that was fine. It was just the way it is. And it wasn't until I got older, until let's say 16 years old, when my grandpa on my dad's side died. And then I had no more family left, direct family, except my mom. And my dad, who was still alive, but, this is where it goes from unremarkable to very remarkable.
Sure.
My poor dad, as I learned when I was about 16, suffered from quick onset of what the doctors called schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and Hodgkin's disease. It was like this terrible cocktail of mental disorder. And he, when my memories were still not able to be formed, 1, 2 years old, he was there. But he steadily lost his mind, for lack of a better term. I mean, it actually is a pretty accurate term, to the point where he just didn't want to see my mom, myself, his dad, his sister, anybody. And so he just went into seclusion in a care facility, and that's where he lived when I was growing up. And this was, as I found out, like 20 minutes away from me. He was just there, my dad, but he didn't want to see me. And you look back at growing up, these people have these families, dads, moms, sisters, and this is normal. I have mine, this is normal. Like you find out, oh, this is really abnormal, actually.
Yeah. Well, and when you go, I could only imagine, because I grew up in a home of addiction. So I could only imagine you in your shoes, and it's hard really until our brain starts to mature about 25 that everything isn't about us. I would find it really hard for you to not take that personal.
Huh. I That's a good point, man.
Yeah.
I You know what? I've probably avoided dealing with it most of my life.
Sure.
You find out that your mom took care of you because your dad couldn't or wouldn't want to. It's like, really, me? It's like, really, my mom? And that explained a lot of the more stressful events when I was a kid. My mom, she's the best person, right? Let me just get that out of the way. I love my mom.
I
She's
can
amazing.
relate.
She's the best. But I can remember when I was a kid, she was stressed a lot. And from my perspective, it was like little things would get her upset. And now I know that she was dealing with raising a kid she was planning on raising with another human being who she loved with all her heart. And then that person who she loved with all her heart said, I don't want to see you again. And then just left and lived 20 minutes away. That's still the crazy part.
Yeah, I could only, boy, I want to give your mom a hug.
Right? She's pretty
uh,
great.
and I can relate to that in the sense of looking back at how much my mom held it all together and,
Hmm.
didn't want her husband and father of her children to die. And boy,
Yeah,
yeah.
tell me more.
Yeah, so home of addiction, my parents were really young. My dad actually had to have my grandma sign the marriage certificate. He was 17, mom was 20. And, my dad, very, 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 very tough childhood, very tough.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Entrepreneur, owned a trucking company, built it from nothing, literally was driving big rigs illegally. This is a long time ago, just to not be living on the streets. Luckily,
Yeah.
I mean, an amazingly skilled man, very intelligent businessman too. But there was a lot of that underlying trauma, and generational trauma is a real thing in the way in which we
Hmm.
carry stuff forward.
Yes.
These are real things that get passed along, and man, she just held it together in his business. She had a travel agency business, being super mom. She was like the den leader mom that, even when
Hmm.
we're teenagers, hey, I got to go to Phoenix, Arizona, and get three of your best friends, and we'll all go. I'll take you. We'll go to a basket NBA
That's
game and check
amazing.
the. Yeah, she was that mom. That's like the Mickey Mouse T-shirt salute to mom. My love for like things Disney. I mean, some kids like, yeah, I went a couple times. Like I went like 200 times. Uh, yeah, just really kind of held it down. And even though I went, I'm not going to succumb to any substance stuff, I still ended up down that path.
Sure. Sure, right?
So
Isn't it crazy how this ha so my mom's brother died of cirrhosis because he was an alcoholic. And look, the things that I hear about the people that came before me, because he died before I was around, the things I hear about him and the things I hear about my dad from the people that are still around that knew them, like these were the people you would want to know no matter who you are. They were loving, they were kind, they were smart, they were driven, they were just magnetic people. And and my mom, now with a kid and a deceased brother from addiction, and a dad, his dad, like my dad, having a mental problem. I don't know how you can raise someone without being very vigilant and trying to keep them away from all of the bad things in life, right? But like hyper
yeah, yeah,
sensitive to that stuff. And yet I'm on this podcast. Life happened. I found my
yeah,
way into the different corners of the world that didn't reward me, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, right. So,
yeah.
all I can do is give thanks to my mom for being the rock star that she was, given all of that stuff.
New Perceptions North, the premier drug and alcohol treatment and recovery center in Central California. A full continuum of medically supervised top quality care with programs for detox and patient residential treatment with dual diagnosis, intensive outpatient treatment, sober living support groups, and more. New Perceptions North provides adult men and women with the highest caliber of professional health care, treating each client with compassion and respect in a safe, comfortable environment to begin the process of recovery to proudly create and sustain a life without addiction. Call 559-978-1507 or visit newperceptionsnorth.com.
My mom did a phenomenal job because I didn't touch alcohol really till I legally could. And
Me too.
even then
Me
it's still
too.
weird because it's like I don't like this, but for the first time, kind of people are inviting me out, and then eventually enough, continual disempowering decisions along my way in my adulthood. And next thing I know, I'm sitting there, asking for help. Like, how did I get here? A
Right.
divorce, little kids, all of it. It's crazy. So tell me a little bit more about you. That you're the first other person I've met that's ever said, "Yeah, it wasn't until legally I could."
Yeah, my mom, super strict, no booze. I think she let me taste the foam off of one Beck's beer that she poured for herself. She would have one beer like every 3 months, right? And that's when I was 12. And I wasn't drinking or going to parties in high school mainly because I didn't have a way to get there or I wasn't cool enough to be at these parties. Probably a combination of the two. Like I didn't live close to anybody, and the cool kids that were doing this, I was a theater guy. I was played in the band, sensitive type, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think depending on what kind of crowd you run with in high school, you just don't see that stuff. But then once you get to college, and I went to college in California, whoa, like things changed, man. I would go out and it was everywhere. All the cool guys were doing it, all the hot girls were doing it. And I thought, I'll try this. And then it was like, whoa, I'm not so nervous around all these strangers. And looking back, I can say that yes, I was drinking a poison that was lowering my inhibitions, and I know exactly why I was feeling euphoric in those moments, but I didn't know that at that time.
Mhm.
No. And that's how I got into it. That and cigarettes, because my friends were also smoking cigarettes. Again, something my mom told me, don't do. Like no shadow of doubt. Don't smoke cigarettes. I won't. And then 2 months into college, I'm smoking cigarettes.
Oh yeah. I mean, I still have a, it's granted I've finally gotten away from the chewing tobacco, but that came into play in my late 30s because I'm working for a company that we cater events and big old smoker and a bunch of rugged dudes and we're doing it hauling I mean we would do, gosh, some of these events like 500 chicken breasts in this big smoker, and
That's
so it's us.
amazing. Oh, that
Yeah,
sounds so good.
yeah, right. Oh, it was phenomenal. So you'd be drinking beer, and one guy, you little whatever, you pass around the chewing tobacco, there you go. And then it's like, oh shoot, I still have a nicotine issue. Granted, it's now pouches and not the disgusting tobacco, but still, it's like,
I did it
uh,
too. I did
yeah,
it too. I did the
it's
pouches.
yeah, it's like, what the hell, man? Well, but you also tramadol and kratom, and how
Mm.
did that come into your life?
So there's this theme I've been exploring mentally since I started Quick Kid, exactly how I got involved with this stuff. And there's this theme that keeps on cropping up every situation. I never went looking for it, and if I had been in another scenario with other people, I probably would never have found it.
Mm.
Tramadol is definitely like the winner of all of that. I used to work around the world. I worked in international development aid programs. I would go and I'd live in this city for a year, in this country, this city, in another country for another year. And I was living in Liberia, which is kind of like America's little brother in West Africa. I was living in Monrovia, the capital city, and then one weekend took a break from work and went up to Robertsport, which is a cool little surfing village up in the top of the country on the north coast. And I rode my motorcycle up there. I had this cool 165cc motorcycle. I was all pumped to ride it through the jungle. And the roads are crap. Like the roads are real crap out there. Potholes the size of jacuzzis and stuff, red, loose dirt roads, but it's beautiful. And the sun is, shining. You're just like, how is this my life? This is so cool. So I went on this trip for 2 days, tried to learn to surf, failed miserably, but had a good time. And I'm coming back down to Monrovia. It's a 3 hour drive. And I'm listening to punk rock, just trying to gauge where the potholes are. And I miss one. And so I skid out. I'm probably going 45 miles an hour. And have you ever been in a motorcycle accident?
Yeah, dirt bike.
You've been in a dirt bike. Okay, so you know that feeling when you hit the ground and suddenly everything is different. Like it's like the bike kind of stays behind, you keep going,
Yeah.
like you keep riding forward, and your brain just suddenly goes into shock. It's like, okay, did I break anything? Am I bleeding? Am I gonna be okay? And you're just laying there in the sun in the red dirt. So, anyways, the friends I went up with who had an SUV, like a proper SUV for those roads, noticed I wasn't behind them anymore and came back and found me. And I was sitting beside the road trying to put the pieces together. And they're like, what happened? I was like, I don't know, man. It was just one moment I was gone. And I had this hole in my right next to my kneecap from the fall, and it was bleeding pretty bad. So they put me in the back of the, it wasn't a Jeep, it was a different SUV, I can't remember, but they put me in the back of the SUV. Someone else rode my motorcycle for me back to Monrovia. And then I got dropped off at the hospital where they gave me Tramadol for the pain. And so, for those who don't know, Tramadol is a partial opioid agonist. It's not going to get you as high as heroin, but it does have euphoric effects. The main metabolite is desmotramadol, and it binds to opioid receptors the same way that kratom's mitragynine does, and it gets you high. And that was my first experience with opioids. And man, and once you open that door, it's hard to forget what's behind it,
Mm.
right? I had 10 pills, 5 days worth, but I was enjoying my conversations with people more because I was feeling that opioid euphoria, that sense of social connection that you get from it. Things weren't so boring. Uh, X, Y, and Z. I ran out of 10 pills and I went down to the pharmacy and got more. If you live in many countries in this world, drugs that are classified or controlled here, like class one or whatever, are not controlled there. You can just
Right.
ask for them. So Tramadol entered my life because I was riding a motorcycle in the jungle on a loose red dirt road on the way back from a beach vacation, and I just happened to miss a pothole. And then a year of addiction after that. Like,
Wow.
what? Because this is how it happens, right? You just don't
Yeah, yeah.
seek it and it finds you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you talking about how that once that door's open, I've not heard it quite put so well that yeah, for so many of us, yeah, once it is, once it's open, it's open,
Yeah.
and once you say, it's you can reflect back upon it consciously, but that's not how it is in the moment. You're
Mm,
subconscious about it all. It's like, whoa, things are just kind of flowing. Like it's not even necessarily a I don't know about you. It's never a thought process for
mm.
me. It just was. And it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah.
this is the state. This is the state.
Yeah.
I like being in that state.
Right,
Please keep me in that state of being as much as
right.
possible, without, again, if we're taking things that lower the inhibition, which is essentially no ability to assess the consequences of
Mm,
action,
mm-hmm.
then people wonder why. How does this become an addiction for this person, but maybe not this person? It's because you're just in it. You're
Yes.
subconsciously living when most of us are living a subconscious life 90% of the day.
That's so right, man. Dude, I work with people who are addicted, and I help them with the quit kit, but having these kinds of conversations, I don't have them with the friends and family in my life, right?
Sure.
Because fortunately they haven't gone through this. It's really refreshing to hear someone say the same things that I think about basically on a daily basis. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, likewise. Likewise. Thank you for sharing how it's been for you.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, at 559 579 1551 or visit us online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Pain Nonprofit. And please subscribe to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And if you would like to donate to PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, please click the link in the description to make your tax-deductible donation today and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.
With the tramadols, it like that gets
Mm.
harder and you kind of switch over to the kratom? What's the
No.
situation there?
Ah, so the Tramadol story, it continues from Liberia. I finished my job there, and like I said, I would go and I'd live different places. I went and I lived in Mexico for some time, and in Mexico you can get it. I remember going to the pharmacy. I was living in Oaxaca, a beautiful city, beautiful part of Mexico. And I would go to the pharmacy and be like, dos cajas de Tramadol, 2 boxes of Tramadol. I would just get the Tramadol. And I would wake up and I would take 2 tabs. And then I would put a sleeve of it in my pocket for the rest of the day. Because every 4 hours the withdrawals would kick in. So I would need it with me. Like I couldn't leave it at home. And so that's just my thing. Some people drink water, brush their teeth. Yeah, I drink water, brush my teeth, and put a sleeve of Tramadol in my pocket. I can't believe it. Like, still looking back. So I lived in Mexico, finished working there, and then decided to pursue my own energy storage project idea in Kenya, where I had a connection. So I went and I lived in Nairobi. Again, pharmacies there. You go in and you ask for what you want. And I was at the point there where I was thinking, I need to stop doing this. I can't not do it, and it's not as fun anymore. Like, I'm just doing this to maintain uh not going through withdrawals, right? We all reach that point as addicts where it's fun. Do I have a problem? I think I have a problem. I can't get out of this. I was reaching the I can't get out of this phase, but I could still get it anywhere. So, man, I remember waking up one morning and thinking, I don't want to take a pill to be happy anymore.
Huh.
That's it. I just don't want to take a pill to be happy anymore. I'm gonna stop. And I stopped. I went cold turkey. I had horrific withdrawals, which we can talk about, but I just remember being like, you're not this. This isn't you. This is done. And somehow I was able to get through it. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Yeah, primarily alcohol was my thing, and
Yeah.
that first 2 weeks, tons of sleeplessness, sweats. I mean, I was
Mm.
pretty fortunate in the way that I quit at the end of my run, so to speak, at how much I was drinking that I never had seizures or any of those things that can come with it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, hey, I give the grace to God. That's me and who I am.
Mm.
But
Hmm.
yeah, it was gnarly, sleeplessness, needing to nap all the time, crazy sweats, going from being insanely hungry, but only wanting sugar to not
Yeah.
wanting to eat at all, being thirsty to feeling bloat. It was just, yeah, it was all over the place. Mood swings. It's just,
How did you maintain not giving in? Were you done? Like, were you just mentally, subconsciously, consciously, I'm gonna
yeah.
do this and it's gonna be my life. I'm gonna get through it and then I'll move on. Or were you still seeking?
I kind of formed an avatar of what I wanted my life to be and who I wanted to be. My kids were pretty young, and just wanting to be there, be present with them, enjoy their life, be able to watch them as they continue to grow. So for me, it was that. And I did do 12 step,
Mm,
was helpful
hmm.
to me. I needed a different crowd because where I live there's
Yeah.
not much to do, Matt. It's like I feel sorry for adults because it's kind of going out either to bars, restaurants, or a single movie theater. And for younger people, teenagers and stuff, there's pretty much nothing. I mean, it's improving, it's getting better.
Hmm.
But yeah, there just wasn't anything to do. So I needed a different crowd. I enjoy people. I like being in a group. I like fellowship. So for me, that was an important
Hmm.
part of it. And having another adult to keep me accountable,
Hmm.
especially at first, was very much needed. Because like you, I can relate. Where it's like some people they get up in the morning, they might. Hulk Hogan it, right? Say your prayers, take your vitamins, brush your teeth, eat a good meal. For me, it wasn't that. It
Wow.
was very much okay. I get through the day, do my job, which I was pretty proficient at.
Hmm.
It never caused me trouble at work per se. And then if I have my kids, get them to bed, and then it was me time, and then drink myself into a stupor to get to sleep. So
Dude, I know
yeah,
what you mean.
yeah. So I really needed that shift to happen, and yeah, for me, having another person there that had been there was huge.
Hmm. I think. I think being able to connect with people and have a new community is so instrumental to making you feel less insane about your addiction. I mean, wake up every day, take a pill. I know what you mean about get through your day, do as good a job as you can, and then drink. Like this is me time, and I'm going to go full in on it with gin or beer or whatever. And then, it's like 1 a.m. on a Wednesday. What am I doing? This is insane. I have to
Mhm.
get up in a few hours, but it's like, no, that was me time, and I need to enjoy it. Uh, and then you find out that other people are having the exact same episodic Groundhog Day nightmare, and you talk to them, and boy, it's like something comes out of you. This darkness comes and just it evaporates because you're like, oh, I shouldn't be so hard on myself. I'm addicted to an addictive drug, just like this person, all these thousands of people. It's not me. I didn't
Mhm.
do something wrong. I just fell into a trap.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And relating very much to what you were talking about, that feeling like an outsider, the cool, not in with the cool kid. Like I never really got bullied in high school, maybe a couple of times, but I got along with everybody, but I also wasn't invited with everybody, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
So yeah, I felt very much just on the outside. So then to all of a sudden go to a place where you walk in and people are smiling at you, like genuinely at
Hmm.
you, not that someone else walked in, but that you walked in. And
Hmm.
it wasn't that you walked in because, oh, we're going to use this thing that is socially acceptable and followed up with bad behavior. For me, booze and women always went hand in hand. So it was like, oh, wow, this is a different thing. This is where we talk about being responsible, taking ownership of our actions. And all of a sudden you start finding out you feel good about yourself. You like the person that you're looking back
Right.
at in the mirror. It's like, oh, okay. And that's scary. That's scary. It's like,
I,
wait a minute, I can like myself. There is a future for me. I am worthwhile of great things and a great life that I can manage. Bad things happen. It's like I have bad things that happen. I don't have bad days anymore. There's going to be bad occurrences. Goodness forbid. I know my folks will pass at some point, and
mm.
all those things, or whatever it is, or finances will be tough, or whatever. What that has happened. I didn't go back to using. Just
Hmm.
went, oh, okay. I can dig in now. I've got the tools and the support system and whatever else. It's a weird shift that happens. It's again to go back to the subconscious, like a lot of it now, it's the programming has changed.
Hmm. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank
That's
you.
big time.
Likewise.
Yeah, I'm happy it's here. I really resonate with what you just talked about when it's like I can like myself because you're your own worst enemy when you're an addict because you're pursuing a harmful behavior when you don't want to. And so it naturally breeds negative self-perception. But other people in your life who really truly love you, they know you're a good person. They know that you have good qualities. They like you. And it's like, well, why don't I like me? They're not stupid. Like these people aren't stupid. They're not misguided. I'm not lying to them. They actually genuinely like me. And then you get sober and you think, oh, yeah, man, there's a lot to like here. Pretty, I see what they saw. Like
Yeah.
and I'm not hurting myself and poisoning myself. And I thought of this experiment when I was first working with people in the Quit Kit. If you can, well, first of all, think about how much time you might spend in front of a mirror. Most of the time, you're not looking at yourself eye to eye. You're looking at everything else. Look yourself in the eye for 30 seconds. See if you can make it to 60 seconds. And you'll see what other people see when you talk to them. But we don't do that. We don't actually look into our soul, if you believe in souls and whatever. We don't look at ourselves the way that other people do. We only look at the things that are attached to our eyes and whatever. It's like, go look in the mirror for 60 seconds in the eye and see what emotions and memories and feelings crop up. And your thoughts will be radically different than they were 60 seconds ago.
Mhm.
And you can do
Agree.
that sober. I mean, everybody's got work to do on themselves. But that's the easiest way to see yourself is to look yourself in the eye and not like move out of the
Right. Do the ultra examination, right? So I got one nose hair that's too long. I'm just talking about middle-aged man stuff there.
way.
Um, so when for you, so the back to like with the kratom, what was then that process getting
Hmm.
through that? Because I've heard that that is just a nightmare in itself too. I
Yeah.
mean, I couldn't imagine the tramadol. I'm
Mm.
lucky. The only time I ever got prescribed an opioid, I got really sick, threw up,
Mm.
and I went, forget this. It takes me about 30 drinks to get to this point. I am so
Holy
fortunate.
cow.
I
Yeah,
yeah,
dude. Absolutely.
yeah.
Good. I had a similar experience with Coke. I got high on Coke and I started seeing double and I was just like, this
Oh,
is terrible. I never want to do this.
I was
Anyway, my
paranoid the
friend is
first time.
go
People
ahead.
like paranoid the first time. I'm like, yes, the first time and only time. That was
Yeah,
enough.
right. It's like, I don't like this. I don't see what you see in this, and good. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna try to figure it out. Yeah, so Kratom, so Tramadol it ended in 2016, 2017. I kicked it cold turkey. The withdrawals were brutal, but when I encountered Kratom, which was now a year and a half ago, it's February 2025 right now. So yeah, about a year and a half ago, not drinking or drugging at all. I'm living in California, chemical engineer, working for a startup that does lithium extraction and tries to do it in a sustainable way. They do it in a sustainable way. I was just going down to the corner store for some CBD, just to get some CBD. And the guy there told me, hey man, if you like this, you're really gonna like this. And he pointed me at these blue bottles called Feel Free. Have you heard of them?
I've not heard of the feel free now.
Oof. Okay. So there's a whole universe inside that bottle. It's marketed as a kava botanical tonic. And when I bought it, they didn't advertise the kratom content. So I
Oh.
thought I was just drinking. Yeah, they've been sued class action over that. I just thought I was drinking kava. It's like, oh, kava. Okay, I'll try it.
Yeah.
Boom. I just felt so good, man. So good. And I thought, wow, kava's this miracle drink. Like, hallelujah. Okay, my depression. I can take some kava to get rid of the mental anguish. And I shit you not, I went to Whole Foods that night and got a kava tincture. And I just thought, oh, I'm not going to spend all that money over here in the corner store. And I remember taking it and being like, when is it going to kick in? When is it going to kick in? And it never did. So I went back and I bought more of this feel free stuff. And then I kept doing that. And it went from every other day to every day. Maybe I'd take some breaks in between, but then I'd be taking multiple a day. And I only found out after these things taste disgusting, by the way. They taste like hot garbage. They're so gross. So, you drink a few of these and you feel sick. And I thought, all right, I'm going to stop taking these. I'm just going to stop. It's making me sick. And I was walking past this apothecary shop. It's like a fancy head shop. And I go in there and I talk to the owner and I say, look, I was taking this stuff called Feel Free. It's a kava drink. And I'm looking for, and she just cut me off. And she said, oh, that's not a kava drink. I say, what? She says, that's packed with kratom. I say, what's kratom? And she says, well, I have all these kratom products here. And I remember she said, kratom is what got me through sober October. I thought that was really interesting. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay, you're just gonna not stop drinking for that month and then go back and in the meantime and take this. Okay. So I got kratom extracts at that store, and then I was taking it every day because this stuff, there's an active ingredient in kratom, which is a tree from Southeast Asia.
Right.
Okay. So there's a leaf that comes from this tree you can chew on, just like coca leaves, You're not going to get high. You'll just get an energy boost and maybe it'll alleviate some pain. Centuries of use like this. Now it's hyper concentrated into these quote extracts. And you can get these all over the country. So there's an active ingredient called metragenine. Metragenine binds to your opioid receptors. They're partial opioid agonists, partial mu opioid agonists. And you get high. And the more you take, well, you get high to that point because partials you can only get so high. But this stuff is in gas stations, head shops, apothecary shops, uh, and then online, and now increasingly at more and more locations like grocery stores or like markets and stuff. So it's everywhere, man. And suddenly I'm drinking this thing every single freaking day, and I'm right back where I was when I was taking Tramadol, right? Like I was just taking it to be happy, taking it to avoid the withdrawals because the withdrawals from kratom are freaking brutal, dude. It is like spinning into a black hole of despair that you can't come back from, where every minute is an hour, every hour is a day, and you know that the thing you can get to make it all go away, you can go fill up your gas tank and get it at the same time. That's, oh, yeah,
Wow. Wow.
brutal, brutal.
Boy, hats off to you, Matt, for, boy, kicking that too. So what was the process then for you? Was it pretty much the,
Hmm.
for lack of a better term, I'm done, white knuckle it for a bit, or was there a different approach? And did that lead into Quick Hit, the development of it?
That's pretty much what happened. I tried to quit twice. And I succeeded the first quit for a month before giving in to a craving. But I had to get through that 5 to 7 days of brutality, like you had said, where you can't sleep correctly, temperature fluctuations, your hunger's all over the place, you feel sick. I tried to quit again months after that, and I made it like 4 days, and then just gave up. And I'd resigned myself to being addicted to this stuff for like the next few months until suddenly my subconscious and my conscious all finally aligned and said, you don't get any benefit from this anymore. This is just killing you. You're suicidal. Uh, Nothing feels good anymore. We do want to quit, but I didn't want to endure those withdrawals again. And I didn't want to go to a treatment program and I didn't want to get a prescription or see a doctor. I wanted to do it myself. And so I'm a chemical engineer, used to be a program evaluator. I'm really familiar with research and finding studies that are honest and not. And I thought if I can find any studies, medical literature, clinical trials on over-the-counter supplements that combat withdrawals from opioid use withdrawal or opioid use disorder, then I'm going to take them. And to my surprise, there is a voluminous amount of literature out there. This
Huh.
stuff has been studied to death. There are very, very, very clear results that X supplement that you can buy at a supplement store will fight Y withdrawal symptom from opioid use disorder. And so I said, okay, good. I know that these withdrawals onset in the morning, these in the afternoon, and these in the evening. I'm going to put together a daily regimen 3 times a day. And it just happened to be 5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, and 5 in the nighttime. And I'm just going to take them and see if it works. And I walked out of that addiction. Man, I felt almost no withdrawals. And 3 days into it, like I kid you not, I'm thinking, oh, right, I'm quitting the drug. Like I had forgotten. This is what is happening. Like I know what it feels like to try to quit a drug and fail and to be overwhelmed by withdrawals. So this supplement formulation, which I call the Quit Kit, after about a month, I thought I couldn't get it out of my head. I thought I have to see if this can help other people.
Hmm.
If it really worked for me, can I help anybody else? And I connected people on there's this quitting kratom subreddit and I'm active there. And I just started asking people, if you need some help, I have all these extra supplement pills. I'd be happy to send you what worked for me. Here's exactly what's in it. and I got some bites, and the reviews were positive. And then I got invited onto the Kratom Sobriety podcast as a guest. And I said, this worked for me. It's worked for a few people. I would be happy to send out 50 free quit kits to anyone who wants one, just to give back. And 6 weeks later, I had sent out 50 free quit kits to people who needed them, and the results were overwhelmingly positive. Overwhelmingly positive. And then since then, I've been doing quit kit full time. I've totally dedicated my life to this thing.
Wow. Wow. That's really encouraging, for us here at Pain. One of the big things we do is, Narcan, providing that, obviously, but the founder, Flynn Anderson, he's an opioid addict,
Mm,
recovered
mm,
well over 20 years. And, one of the things we talk about is how disheartening it is to us to maybe strap a younger person. We get it kind of some of the older people maybe aren't going to be able to totally kick, but to either be on A, methadone, or B, Suboxone and be
Suboxone.
on it. So you're just taking an opioid, replacing it with an opioid. You're not
Yes.
really putting them in a position to, our gripe is we're not judging anyone, but servicing someone that way, we find it to be very disheartening because
Hmm.
it's like you're
Hmm.
not you're not helping them create a more empowering way of life.
Hmm.
Right. It's like, what do you have to lose? Try this supplement program. What do you have to lose? You've got nothing to lose at the end of the
Yes.
day. Hey, okay, you've taken some natural remedies here. It's like, come on. Because we have seen it where there's people that Flint was on methadone for 2 years. The withdrawal symptoms for him because he eventually went, here, shove this up your backside. I'm done, and had a psychotic break. I've known other people have been through. I know other people
Oh
that,
my
much
God.
like you were talking about how you went and stuck the Tramadol in your pocket. That's them with the Suboxone. Like, I can't leave
Yes.
the house without it.
Right.
You know.
Right. Right. I do think when you trade one opioid for another, you limit you limit your ability to be that new person in the world, the person who's opioid free. And one of the reasons why Quick Kick came about is because I had no idea what was available to me, or what might work other than getting an opioid prescription where you're locked in. It's like a contract. You go to clinical checkups. You have a tapering schedule, so you might be doing it for months to a year to 2 years, and it becomes out of your hands. Like you don't control that anymore. The medical provider is the one that says this is when you'll stop and this is how much you'll take every week. And I was like, no, if there's an option where I can own this quit, um, I'm gonna find out if it exists. And Quit Kit was that answer.
Wow. Yeah. Well, on the other side of that too is, we've known many people that they are on that prescription schedule. They do have to go back and they're being tapered down. They go, my cravings are really coming back. I'm going to hit the streets. We better start re-upping again. Sure, no problem.
Right, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
Sure,
So
no
you're,
problem.
so you're stuck in it. I mean, and as an addict, knowing how we would work, it'd be like, oh yeah, I remember people like, oh, expressing concern. Are you drinking less? Oh yeah, yeah. But what really is less? Oh, it's no longer a 30 pack a night. It's 29. Like, come
Yeah.
on,
Yeah, I
it's
know.
like it's less. So yeah, that's crazy. So, if people want to find out more about Quick Kid or contact
Mm.
you, what's the best way to go about it?
Yes, please. I'd love to hear from you and connect with you. Even if you don't get one, I'd really love to just chat with you. Go to www.tryquitkit.com. That's tryquitkit.com. And you can email me directly at, excuse me, Matt at tryquitkit.com. Matt, two T's. I don't know what's happening to my voice right now. Excuse me. That's Matt with two T's at tryquitkit.com. Email me. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. And boy, I like to just ask people to leave any encouragement, maybe for someone struggling, or if there's a loved one that's
Hmm.
listening of someone that's struggling, or even new to their sober journey. What might you want to share?
That's a really good way to end the show, man. Thank you. I have learned a lot about addiction in the past few months. And when it comes to those who are chasing sobriety and eventually get there, if you're trying to quit a drug and you say, I'm going to quit tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes and you try and it doesn't work out, that is okay. You have lost nothing and you are still a great person. You are not weak. What does matter is if you keep trying something new. And one quit is not like the next one. I'll say that. If you have five different quits and then the sixth one is successful, and the first five you did the exact same thing and tried something new on the sixth one, that something new may have been the catalyst. So just because something didn't work, your quit didn't work on try one. Find some quit literature. Read up on, for example, alcohol. There's some great books. Alan Carr, Annie Grace, Catherine Gray, Craig Beck, William Porter. Read these books and they might change your mindset. Um, if that doesn't work, figure out how to connect to an online community. The first day I posted on the Quitting Kratom subreddit was the last day I used Kratom. It was that last thing I needed to push me over the edge and say, you're not alone. People have been doing this. You can do it too. Little things like that. Just try something new and keep trying to quit. And if you keep doing something new and keep quitting, you will eventually. If not the very next time, you'll get there. I swear to you.
Well, if you want more information, the links are in the podcast description to connect with Matt. Quick hit, inquire more. This is a real pleasure. We're going to have to keep in touch and do this again.
Yeah, I can't tell you how it's just been such a great conversation. Thank you for allowing me on here. And nice to meet you, honestly.
Likewise. Likewise.